On the 1st of May 2022, International Workers' Day, Socialist Republican activists in Dublin seized the long vacant building in the city centre. They took control of it and opened it up to house those in need for over a month. And this happened in spite of repeated eviction attempts, court injunctions, and even smear campaigns by the media. What motivated the Socialist Republican activists to take such direct action? What were the politics of this project? And why do these activists feel that this kind of action is necessary today in 2022? After having consulted the Revolutionary Workers' Union, which spearheaded this action, to get some answers to these questions, today we're going to take a look at the story of James Connolly House and the larger housing war currently taking place across Ireland. But first, if you're new here, then go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell below for socialist educational content and analysis. If you're in a position to do so, then consider tossing a couple of euro or dollar per month over on Patreon. The channel is currently moving towards releasing videos on a weekly basis, which requires getting in the help of an editor. So any contributions that you make will be going directly back into the channel, improving both the quality and the quantity of these videos. You can also give a one-time donation over on Ko-fi, linked in the description box below. Lastly, drop this video a like, leave a comment about your favourite socialist revolutionary, and share this video around on social media, as the YouTube algorithm, perhaps unsurprisingly, isn't exactly fond of promoting revolutionary left-wing media. Now, the story of James Connolly House begins all the way back in 1922 with the suppression of the All-Ireland Republic and the establishment of the counter-revolutionary 26-county Free State by British imperialism and its collaborationist lapdogs. For 100 years, the administrators of the Free State, the Committee of the Rich as Connolly would label such capitalist administrations, have been inextricably linked to landlordism, with one of the highest concentrations of landlords to be found in the Parliament of Leinster House itself. As such, one of the features of Irish capitalism is the creation of a deliberate undersupply of housing on the market to drive up the profits for landlords. A new feature of this system in recent years has been to leave perfectly habitable homes and buildings lying empty, to artificially create a demand for housing that ensures the landlord always enjoys substantial profits. At the time of this video, there are approximately 10,000 people homeless in Ireland, and at the same time, according to the 2022 census, there are currently 166,752 houses and apartments, with a further 66,135 holiday homes, meaning 232,887 domestic properties, lying vacant across the 26 counties of Ireland, over 40,000 of which are in Dublin City itself. There are a further 20,068 empty homes in the occupied 6 counties, meaning that there are over 250,000 vacant domestic properties across the country. This is of course for no other reason than to drive up profit. It's clear from this simple fact that the colonial and semi-colonial states in Ireland have no intention of addressing the housing issue. Solutions, therefore, are being sought outside the parliamentary political system, directly from the people. Enter the Revolutionary Workers' Union and the story of James Connolly House. Socialist Republicans, representing the most advanced working class strand of the revolutionary tradition in Ireland that stretches back to at least the 1790s, have always played a key role in the struggles of the Irish working and toiling classes against oppression. Whether it was Jemmy Hope, Fintan Lawler, Connolly and the Citizen Army, Mellows, the Republican Congress or Costello, Socialist Republicans have always understood that land and housing are some of the key ways through which imperialism and domestic capitalism continue to oppress the Irish people. In particular, since the 1960s, there's been an unbroken continuity of Socialist Republican organisations and activists being directly involved in housing activism. From the Housing Action Committees, tenants organisations, rent strikes, anti-eviction activism, targeting exploitative landlords, and right up to today taking on the imperialist housing vultures. It was from this tradition that the Revolutionary Workers' Union arose as an explicitly socialist republican fighting union. Upholding the mantra of Marx and Engels on the need for the working class to have its own independent fighting organisations, the Revolutionary Workers' Union is a working class-led union which is willing to take direct action to achieve its goals. A rare case for Irish unions today, it has to be said. At the April meeting of the Revolutionary Workers' Union Council, it was unanimously agreed to take direct action to present a sample of a revolutionary solution to the housing issue in Ireland. The council agreed that the union would place an acquisition order on a long-term vacant building in Dublin city centre and open it as a small contribution to housing those in need and to help alleviate some of the hardship and suffering of those on the streets. It's important to note that from the beginning, the Revolutionary Workers' Union Council was explicitly stating that this action would be a revolutionary political action aimed to light a spark. This wasn't simply some spontaneous occupation, nor was it a squat. It was a revolutionary acquisition of a building to house those in need. In this we see a contrast with previous left-wing housing initiatives in Ireland, as the Revolutionary Workers' Union activists from the beginning made clear their intention to fight the state and to defend the building against any eviction. The motivation and political context were clear. Socialist Republicans were entering a new phase in the housing war, providing leadership and outlining a revolutionary solution to a problem which faces not only the 10,000 directly homeless, over 3,000 of whom are children, but also the countless hidden homeless, as well as all of those struggling to scrape together just enough money to pay exorbitant rents to their avaricious landlords for subpar accommodation across the country. And so, on the 1st of May, symbolically chosen because it's International Workers' Day, the acquisition team of the Revolutionary Workers' Union, supported by other Socialist Republican activists, made their way to 12 to 14 Eden Quay, a long vacant building, formerly a youth hostel that the Free State and the Salvation Army closed more than 18 months previously, while at the same time people were and are dying on our streets. In a short time, the acquisition team had liberated the building and renamed the former hostel James Connolly House, in honour of the great Socialist Republican leader who was executed in 1916 by British imperialism and who had his headquarters just slightly further along Eden Quay at Liberty Hall. The starry plough of the Irish Citizen Army, the flag of Irish Socialist Republicanism, was flown over the building in defiance. But it was also flown at half-mast in honour and tribute to all the homeless people in Ireland who've died in what have been entirely preventable deaths due to Free State neglect and inaction. Deaths that the Revolutionary Workers' Union Council have come to classify as murder. Interestingly, it wasn't the first time that the Starry Plough had flown this very section of Dublin. The neighbouring and joined building, which faces onto Marlborough Street and is currently the office of the Samaritans, 112 Marlborough Street, was once the office of the Republican Congress, a revolutionary socialist republican organisation that split from the Irish Republican Army in 1934 and was immersed in the housing struggles of the day, and also reorganised Connolly's Irish Citizen Army with the help of that organisation's veterans. It's been said that history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it does often rhyme, and in this case, it seems that the historical rhyme favoured the Revolutionary Workers' Union. Once the building had been opened, the Revolutionary Workers' Union Council placed its acquisition order prominently on the doors, declaring that we proclaim the right of all people in Ireland to housing, regardless of their nationality, ethnicity, gender or sexual orientation. We declare that no one should be dying on our streets while there are homes and buildings lying empty. The artificial housing and homelessness crisis is maintained in order to drive up the profits of landlords and vultures. We can no longer stand by while families languish on housing lists, are broken by rack rents, or die on our streets. This action demonstrates that the working class can take power into our own hands, open empty homes and buildings, and meet our needs ourselves. We call on all across the 32 counties of Ireland who support us to work with those in your community with housing needs and open up all empty homes and buildings. Let James Connolly House be a spark in building the militant All-Ireland working class housing movement to break landlordism and housing vultures. Work at this stage immediately began to make the building habitable. A number of people in need of housing were moved in, and a committee was established to run James Connolly House on a day-to-day basis on democratic principles with the oversight of the Revolutionary Workers' Union Council. Strict rules were put in place, such as no drinking or drugs being allowed on the premises at any times. No visitor could enter the building without first signing in and then signing out when leaving. The building was under the protection of Socialist Republicans and security was tight. Indeed, a number of independent newspapers have referred to how well the building was run. Seeing the mass grassroots support that the acquisition was generating, the state quickly went on the offensive. A compliant national media was recruited in an attempt to smear the acquisition. The Salvation Army and the Free State conjured up a narrative that the building was going to be prepared to house Ukrainian refugees. A narrative that, after over a year of the house lying completely vacant and nearly 3 months having passed since the outbreak of the Russo-Ukrainian War, conveniently only emerged 3 days after the acquisition. Curious. The Revolutionary Workers' Union countered that refugees were welcome, that it believed in housing for all, and that James Connolly House was itself in fact already providing housing to migrants in need and even to a political refugee. The people quickly saw through the lies, and the state's smear campaign fell flat on its face. Beyond just the smears and ideological attacks by reactionary media outlets, the Gardaí and a private security firm, later identified as K-Tech, arrived on the morning of the 3rd of May in an attempt to force the Revolutionary Workers' Union out. However, they were repelled by residents in the house. In response to this assault, the Revolutionary Workers' Union called an anti-eviction rally on Eden Quay later that same evening. When over 100 people turned up at short notice, it was clear that the action had already amassed widespread grassroots support in Dublin, and the state went back to the drawing board. From that rally, a call for volunteers to help out at James Connolly House went out, and an army of people signed up. Volunteers were put to work cleaning, helping to make the space habitable, preparing food and drinks to give to the homeless, and in building wider support for the action. A large anti-eviction text tree was established, and as the days went on, it became clear that James Connolly House wasn't just a splash in the pan. While the building was taken to highlight a revolutionary solution to the housing crisis and to provide housing to those in need, it was also a thought-out political action, and James Connolly House immediately became a hub for revolutionary activity. Public meetings, protests, workshops, food stalls, self-defense classes, Irish language classes, Lift for the Left fitness sessions, music sessions, and reading groups all became a regular feature of the programme of work. The building itself became a revolutionary canvas, with flags and banners hung from every window, broadcasting the revolutionary socialist Republican message to all who passed by. In this way, the Revolutionary Workers' Union Council was working to strengthen the housing initiative, and by the 17th of May were in a position to take another acquisition of a long-term vacant building, this time in Inchicore, just outside the city, which was renamed Liam Mellows House after the Socialist Republican leader executed by the Free State in 1922. The state now changed tactics against the housing activists. The Salvation Army went to the Free State High Court and sought an injunction to force those in the building to leave. At the first court hearing, the judge refused to grant such an order and postponed the case for a week. An injunction was granted at the next court hearing the following week, but in reality, this changed very little for the Revolutionary Workers' Union and James Connolly House. Free State laws had led to the death of the homeless and vulnerable, and the Revolutionary Workers' Union Council had already agreed that such laws or any injunction issued by the Free State courts would not be obeyed. In open defiance of the High Court, Revolutionary Workers' Union Council spokesperson and veteran Socialist Republican Sean Doyle addressed the proceedings. He stated, "More's the pity that this Free State Court of Law is not the People's Republican Court of Justice. Then it and all its functionaries would be on trial for willful murder of thousands of homeless people." The stance was clear: no capitulation. As a testament to an unwavering revolutionary spirit, despite injunction notices being posted on the building, meetings, reading groups, and even rallies continued at James Connolly House. This made James Connolly House's acquisition different from the housing actions that had gone before it, particularly celebrity ones that received significant publicity but capitulated as soon as the courts got involved. With the campaign continuing to grow and support deepening, the Revolutionary Workers' Union Council next announced the establishment of a new section of the union, the Revolutionary Housing League, to organise and empower people to carry forward the housing war. At the time of this video, a strong Revolutionary Housing League grouping has been established in Dublin, while numerous branches are currently being formed across the country. By mid-June, Socialist Republicans at James Connolly House had been providing housing to those in need for over a month, and beneath the starry plough, they were doing so in open defiance of the Free State and its courts. Hundreds of people had become involved in the campaign, and it was clear that a new, militant, working-class housing movement was in gestation. The Free State, concerned at the revolutionary potential and having failed to intimidate the activists through the courts, decided to act as any injured animal reacts. The state decided to turn to violence. At the break of dawn on the 9th of June 2022, the Free State sent more than 100 police officers, including the Armed Emergency Response Unit, the Special Branch, the Armed Political Police, the Riot Squad, and a police helicopter, in what was in reality a military operation to evict the Revolutionary Workers Union from James Connolly House. Having anticipated such a move, the Revolutionary Workers Union had already moved the majority of the residents out of James Connolly House to the safety of Liam Mellows' house, while two members of the union had decided to stay to resist any attempts to criminalise revolutionary housing activism. So when the state's armed stormtroopers broke down the door of James Connolly House that morning, you can imagine their embarrassment when their military operation that cost hundreds of thousands of euros was faced with arresting precisely two people, a pensioner and a student. Once again, the Revolutionary Workers Union had been a few steps ahead of the state and had inflicted a significant propaganda blow against them in an example of what Sun Tzu once called the art of fighting without fighting. Those arrested were brought before the High Court, where they continued the battle, making a show of the court and refusing to purge their contempt of court and end the campaign. Despite this, when faced with the reality of what was an incredibly embarrassing policing operation and the shame of jailing a pensioner and a student, who were both clearly deeply committed to addressing the artificial housing crisis in Ireland, the judge released both men. This was a great victory for the Revolutionary Workers Union and the Revolutionary Housing League. And while James Connolly House had been taken by force, the Revolutionary Workers Union still controlled Liam Mellows' house, where its revolutionary programme was continuing. At the time of this video's release, the Revolutionary Workers Union remain in Liam Mellows' house and are continuing to provide housing for those in need. The campaign is far from over and continues to go from strength to strength. Now conveniently ignored by mainstream media, for over 2 months, Liam Mellows' house has provided a refuge for those with housing needs and embedded this campaign into a working class community, building even wider, deeper support among the people. James Connolly House was an important initiative that demonstrated the revolutionary nature and contemporary relevance of socialist republicanism to a new and younger generation of people who are now coming to realise that Connolly's ideology is the key to solving their problems. Since the 1st of May, hundreds of new people have become involved in socialist republican activism as a direct result of James Connolly House, and the action has placed socialist republicanism clearly and unquestionably in the leadership of the ongoing housing war. Importantly, James Connolly House brought an international focus to the housing situation in Ireland, and the Revolutionary Workers Union and Revolutionary Housing League were widely supported by international revolutionaries from all around the world, including Palestine, England, the USA, Germany, Norway, France, Turkey, Brazil, and Catalonia. The Revolutionary Workers Union has stated that this international support was not only welcome but helped spur its activists on to continue the fight. James Connolly House is the spark that has given life to a new, militant All-Ireland housing campaign under the direction of the Revolutionary Housing League, which states that its aim is to smash landlordism and drive imperialist housing vultures out of Ireland. The spirit of James Connolly House continues today in Liam Mellows' house. Significant Revolutionary Housing League branches have already been established in Galway and Waterford, taking the campaign to 3 of the 4 provinces in Ireland, with the Revolutionary Workers Union making clear that this is an all-Ireland campaign that'll see action in all 4 provinces in the weeks and months ahead. Commenting on the housing war and the importance of James Connolly House, the socialist republican organisation Anti-Imperialist Action Ireland, whose activists have been playing a central role in the campaign, has stated that James Connolly House and the housing war is socialist republicanism in action. This revolutionary initiative demonstrates that Irish socialist republicanism has the answers, the ability, and the growing support to achieve national liberation and socialist revolution. The housing war can only be won by revolutionary means, and we stand fully in support of the Revolutionary Workers Union and the Revolutionary Housing League. Once again, James Connolly House has demonstrated that direct action gets the goods. Perhaps the most important takeaway for viewers of this video is that the story of James Connolly House shows that things are beginning to change in Ireland. It demonstrates that the conditions for revolution are ripening and that revolutionary socialist republicanism is once again on the rise and is being taken up by a new generation of passionate revolutionary activists. If this housing action is any kind of sign of things to come in the future, then any student of revolution, either at home here in Ireland or in the furthest corners of the world, should make sure to keep an eye on this space. Illuminated by this spark, the future of Ireland is looking bright. Right, thanks very much for watching this video. Hopefully you found it useful in one way or another. Thanks especially to the supporters on Patreon who continue to make each of these videos possible with their generous donations. Thank you Blue Collar Red, Julia Affentranger, BJB7, Gato Ansok, Ugopnik, Jacob Jaff, Grimwater, Borkua Gorilla, Ryan Hodgson, Soup, Michaela Schmid, Christian Nepales, Alfonso Dingo Torres, Rock Artist, Zakasi, Anglo-Irish Bolshevik, Thomas Ross and Wood, Bobby Block, Jason Schmidt, Mitch Schiller, Saoirse Velan, Roja, Emma Lemon Practice, Eric Lindahl, Robert Jarzak, Anastasia, Wonderbad, JT Chapman, Joseph Shepard, Comrade Amara, Wealth for the 99%, Peter Kraus, Hagen Mitchells, Carlos De Luna and 23 Skidoo. Cheers everyone, agus slán go fóill.